Good morning. It's a pollinator, and I don't know what the title of this video is going to be, but um, a childhood friend that I grew up with, in fact, her father is my father's best friend. He grew up with him, and she said something to me last night that really has me kind of on my heels. Um, because, as I've stated, my father is a very famous man. And yes, I grew up as a privileged black kid in America. And I'll just tell you what she said, and then I'll take it from there. She said that myself and my sister were one of the most blessed people in the town I grew up in. And that came from me saying that I felt like my childhood was strange. And because, see, I was on the inside looking out. And although most of my life I have tried to look at my past and my upbringing from the outside looking in, I was never able to do that until today, when I thought about what she said last night. I was telling her how there's been many people that have come back into my life from my childhood. And I was telling her how very strange it is to me that when when I've had conversations with these people that knew me when I was a child, that they expect me to remember them. And I mean, I've literally been on the phone for 30 minutes to an hour with somebody trying to explain to me who they were in my childhood. And what I was telling my childhood friend last night was that how I was exposed to thousands of people per year, and we had a lot of babysitters. And one guy in particular was trying to tell me who he was, where he lived, how many times he had been to our house, how many times he had babysat me, that I used to whoop his ass playing basketball. And I mean, he went on and on and on trying to jog my memory. But see, I don't have memories like that about particular people that showed up in our house, because, you know, not only were there a lot of people in my house on a regular basis, but I was also traveling and meeting people as well. So traveling on behalf of him, my father. And so I don't remember the people because we had a public life. And I literally would feel guilty sitting there because I couldn't remember them. Unless they were directly in our life, unless I hung out with them a lot, there's no possible way that I can remember all of the people that I was exposed to. And so she told me last night to forgive them, that it was the fact that I grew up in a public life that they were looking at, that they had no idea what it was like for me as a child, and that they didn't know any better. And they still don't know any better than to try to get me to remember them. And I feel bad when I don't. But to this day, I have problems with names. I literally have a block in my brain that it takes me a long time to remember your name, unless it's simple. If the more complicated the name, the less likely I am to remember it. And I don't care who I'm talking to, where I'm talking to them, be it out in public, be it over the internet or whatever. I have a block with names, and that came from my childhood. Okay, being, even when I became an adult, my mother, she was so proud of me, and so she would show me off to all her friends in the Bay Area, and which is where she and I lived for for the first half of my adulthood. She would introduce me to tons of her friends, and then, maybe a day or two later, she would mention their name. Or, don't you remember I introduced you to them? I said, Mama, you introduced me to 15 people. You expected me to remember 15 people's names? For real? And I don't even when I meet somebody, I have to repeat their name in my head at least 5 times. And then even the next day, I might forget their name. That's just what goes on in this head. And it comes from growing up in a public life. So anyway, but my friend was right. I've never looked at it from the outside looking in, because all those people that were around all the time, and they were different people all the time, had no idea what it was like from the inside looking out. Okay? And then, so it was because of prosperity and privilege and the blessing that I got to be that man's firstborn, that she hit me something that it just never came across to me, that my life was a blessing. For me at the time, it was almost a nightmare. Okay, I was shy. I did not know how to speak. I did not put sentences together until I was a teenager. Okay, that's how shy I was. Like I said in one of my other videos, I buried myself in athletics. I was a sports fanatic, and not from a fan point of view. I think fans are insane. And to this day, I watch sports not as a spectator. I watch sports as somebody who lived that life 24 hours a day. Okay, so, so I was an athlete, and that was the only way I knew how to express anything, my emotions, and words that I was like a social cripple, but I knew how to look good in front of the camera. I knew how to behave in front of the camera. But that's it. I did not communicate. I didn't know how to. And you know what brought me out of that? Drugs and alcohol. I was so lost. And what that friend last night doesn't know about me, because she left my hometown and actually ended up here in Atlanta to start her family. What she doesn't know is that in my mid to latter teens, I ended up homeless. I've had so much adversity in my life. It's not even funny. And, in my own hometown, I ended up homeless. And then I ended up homeless there again in my 40s. Okay, so she doesn't realize that while I did have a blessed upbringing, I really, really did. But a lot of things happened between my upbringing and today. Okay, and so a lot of negative things happened. And a lot of that stuff still sits inside of me as a negative experience that went against the way that I was raised, which was privileged. I got to do things that people only dream of doing. I got to travel the country. My father trusted me enough to put me on planes at a very early age by myself to visit him in various places he was playing ball. I had all of the toys that everybody wanted, toys, motorcycles, whatever I want I had. Was I spoiled? Yes. I do not apologize for that today. Although on the internet, on various celebrities, various people like to throw stones at people who were spoiled. Oh, I wasn't raised with a silver spoon in my mouth. Blah, 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 blah. In fact, the woman on Empire said that. So there's I have a certain amount of, not guilt, but a certain amount of, why do black people have to look at it that way type of reaction when celebrities that made it from poverty kind of put down other people who were not raised in poverty. Okay, so I take offense to that, because not only was I raised privileged, but I did end up in poverty twice and dug myself out of it each time, which for me was probably harder to do that with no street smarts. The first time around anyway. No street smarts, no nothing but a very, very solid, good education that I had growing up. I did not have a sense of self growing up. I did not have an identity growing up because I was in that man's shadow. And so I had to somehow, what ended up happening the first time was a woman named Lalomi Washburn, who was a backup singer for Shaka Khan. I ended up friends with her because I met her at a party. And she saw a light in me that I did not see at the time, at the ripe age of 17. Or maybe it was 17 or 18 years old. She told me, you're very bright. You're very smart. I don't know how you ended up in this situation that you're in, but you need to do something because you're throwing your life away. And we talked some more, and there was some other things going on at the time, including a pimp and his hustler being after me to become part of their prostitutes. Lalomi knew this. I told her this. I told her I was afraid because they literally were after me, and they did come after me, but I wasn't home. Anyway, she told me that night while I was under the covers, with the covers over my head, and crying and upset, she said, "Ray, join the service." That wasn't my name at the time, but anyway, She said, join the military, join the service, do something, get yourself out of this. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. And then I got off the phone. And it took maybe another year after that. I'm not quite sure how long it took. But because I respected her, and because she knew I respected her, and she respected me for who I was, where I came from, and everything else, because she was a star, she talked to me like a person, not like this man's son or offspring. She talked to me like I was a human being, not somebody to be admired, I guess you could say. I didn't know I was admired at the time. So I listened to her, and that's what I did. My father gave me the opportunity when I was 17 to join the Navy as an officer. And, you know, he had connections, and he wanted me to, you know, when he gave me a choice. He said, you could go into the Navy as one of the first black female cadets, or you can go to college. And I very quickly said college because I had a problem with authority at the time, and I could not see myself joining the military. You know, what was I going to do with the chain of command when I couldn't even, I was rebellious, and I didn't like authority, and I didn't like to be told what to do like most young kids don't. And so, you know, I said college. And he sent me to college. I blew it. I blew that entire education. I had to go to summer school to bring my grades up to qualify for the fall semester. And so I went to summer school at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And I did very well that summer. I think I had a 3.8 average at the end of the summer. And then fall showed up, along with 22,000 people. Okay. And one of the strange things that happened to me when I went to summer school is by the time I got there, everybody knew I was coming, which blew me away. It was like, you know, and only black people would tell me this. I would run into them, and they would say, you know, we know who you are. We know who you are. And I'm like, how does everybody know who I am? Again, I had no cognitive reasoning or thinking about who I was. You know, I wasn't connecting that it was because of my father's fame that everybody knew who I was. I thought I was going to show up and nobody would know who I was. Yippee! Nobody was going to know who I was. Not the case. Now, when I showed up at that school, and that summer, I think there was only like 5,000 people total at summer school. So when 22,000 people showed up that fall, I ended up in the senior dorm. Big mistake. Which I talked my father into because I did not want roommates. And the only rooms, single rooms available was in that dorm, in the seniors dorm. So when school started, all these seniors that had all the time in the world on their hands and had light schedules were coming by. I was partying all day long. I think I went to two classes I wanted to go to. I felt like going to. The rest of them I blew off to party all day long. I opened my door, and all day long, seniors would come and get me high. And if they weren't coming to my room, I was going to theirs, getting high. I didn't, basically I didn't go to school, and I blew a multi-thousand-dollar education because I was just out of control. I mean, I was a kid. I didn't care anymore. I really didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to attend college at the time. And so I went from a 3.8 average to a 2.9 in one semester because I never went to class. I went to a black study class, black history, and the other one, gee, was there another one I actually went to on a regular basis? No, I went to one class, and I think I had 5 or 6 classes during that fall. So I blew my education to bits, and I was so afraid to go home during the winter break and tell my father that I was flunking out of college that I just told him I didn't want to go anymore because I didn't want to explain why I was flunking, because I was getting loaded all the time. I didn't want to tell him that. So I told him I wanted to leave school. I wanted to drop out. And we had an argument about that, which resulted in me telling him, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I got to go. And he gave me some money, and I packed my car and went back to Boulder. Now, I'm not going to get into what happened after that, but if so, I ended up in Denver. From Boulder, I had to go to Denver to find a job, and from Denver, I ended up back in Omaha because of some stuff that went down in Denver, and so I just kind of floated around, lost, loaded, high, confused, no identity, couldn't deal with authority, couldn't deal with anything, couldn't deal with myself either. So yes, I ended up homeless and doing a lot of strange things to survive that period of time because I had no clue what I was doing in the streets. So I joined the service, which gave me discipline. It gave me my career because I passed pretty high on the military entrance exams. Again, I don't know if it was genetics or exactly what it was that, well, I have a very high IQ. So, I ended up, I only ended up like 2 or 3 points off of being able to enter the military as in the software industry. So I had to end up going into the hardware industry part of computers, which suited me fine at the time. But now that I look back, oh boy, did I wish I had gone into the Navy as an officer, because to be commissioned is a heck of a lot more interesting than being a enlisted. But that's okay. That's just what I did. That's what happened, and it saved my life. It saved the destructive path I was going down. And I mean destructive. And when my book comes out, you'll see just how destructive it was. I was literally just ruining my life. But again, God has always put very, very influential people in my life throughout my life, throughout my entire life. And people that I could actually, who actually related to me in a way that I did what they said. You know, in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was a very easy person to sponsor because I didn't, maybe it was because of the military. I did not question what my sponsors told me to do. I just do it. And for anybody who is dealing with teenagers or 20-something-year-olds, how hard is it to get to mentor or to coach or to sponsor kids that age? Pretty difficult, because they don't want to be told what to do. And if you try to get them to do things, they're going to rebel. But the military knocked that out of me. And by the time I got clean and sober when I was 26 years old, I was able to do things that I was told to do without question. They would say, jump, and I'd say, how high? Just like I was taught in the military. Okay, and so because of that, people always thought I had much more time than I actually did, because I caught on to things very quickly because I worked so hard. I did the work. I didn't expect everybody else to do the work for me. I latched on to wanting to feel better and to think better and to be better all the time. I wanted that as much as I wanted drugs. And drugs and alcohol. And what I was told in Alcoholics Anonymous is that, you know what? If you put as much effort and energy into getting better and well in this program as you did hunting down drugs and drinking alcohol and partying all the time, if you put that same amount of effort into your sobriety, you're going to have an awesome experience. I believed it. I've always been very literal. You know, black or white. There was the gray area I hadn't learned yet. So, you know, in my head, it was like, okay, they said, if you do this, you'll get that. And that's what I did. No question asked. Unless it came to women. That's where I drew the line, or where my rebellion came out, or where, you know, I had a couple of sponsors, one in particular who said, you know what, it's me or her. And I said, bye, motherfucker. You don't stand between a man and his pussy. You know, I'm sorry to say it that way, but, ooh, I hope I don't have to change the age limit on this video. But anyway, you don't stand in the way of that, you know, and I bailed on him to stay with her, and we managed to stay clean and sober together through a very tumultuous relationship. Oh my God, that thing was ugly. It was crazy. But it's almost like we stayed together to spite everybody, because they, you know, one of the things that they tell old timers is don't get involved with newcomers. And what they tell newcomers is don't get involved in a relationship for your first year. Well, I didn't listen to that. I got involved as quickly as possible. And then had a very crazy relationship because I didn't know what I was doing. And, you know, I hadn't worked all the steps of the program, and neither had she. She was like 90 days behind me, I think. But together we learned how to stay clean and sober, and how to live happy, and we learned how to do things clean and sober by our constant involvement in that program. And then I branched out into a bunch of other things. I was a self-help junkie. And I'm gonna stop talking about my life. But if you are young I said in one of my other videos this to black people. You got a plan. You know, how are you going to pull yourself up by your bootstraps? And fuck what white people think we should do. What I'm saying is if you are still young, because the older you get, the harder this gets to do it. Harder it gets for you to make a plan and even feel that you can implement that plan. The older you get, the harder that is. When we're young, we still feel we're invincible. I mean, we haven't lived life yet. And so make a plan. Be it to go to college, put yourself through college if you have no other means of getting there. Join the military. You know, join, what's that other organization? Doggone it, I can't think of it at the time. But don't just be a blade of grass in the wind and just blow every which way the wind is going to blow you. I have always been ambitious. And that's what's missing from many, many, many people I talk to on a regular basis, is they are not ambitious. Not at all. They're looking for a hand out, not a hand up. You go reaching down there to pull them up, and they fight and claw and kick and scream, I don't want to get up, give me something. And that is the plight of the American black person. That is part of the slave mentality that Dr. Joy, God, I can't remember her last name, but that a black professor runs around teaching in seminars about the black slave mentality, which she calls a disorder, that we have been conditioned over centuries to think that somebody else is going to pull us out of this. No, they aren't. And the more that we fight each other, the more we are petty with each other, the more we have jealousy of each other, the more we fear each other, the more that we express I mean, look at what's going on with Jay-Z's new album. How many people are wasting their freaking entire day looking for a way to discredit that man and gossip about him and gossip about Beyonce and gossip. You know what you could be doing while you're gossiping? Getting your life together. Who cares what these celebrities are doing? You're not a celebrity. I don't know why people have this crazy thing going on in their head about celebrities, and that their lives seem to be more interesting talking about them than doing something about their life. They take what they're saying very seriously about these celebrities. Well, guess what? Guess why I have gotten where I've gotten in life? Because I wasn't interested in celebrities. Not at all, because I grew up around them. They were just people to me. So I never spent any time thinking about celebrities and what they're up to and what they're doing and who they're fucking and who they're marrying and who their babies are. And blah, 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 blah. I don't spend time doing that. I don't put all my brain space, fill it up with bullshit that isn't bettering my life and isn't bettering the way I feel and isn't bettering my transition and isn't getting me to my goals and isn't, you see, there's a difference between, how you spend your time, what you do spending your time. or what you spend your time doing. I'm sorry, the other way around. You spend your time worrying about what Joe, Ho, Hoo, Jay-Z is doing over there. They could care less what you think. For real, people, y'all are all on YouTube. I finally figured out how to turn off my notifications for that bullshit. Because there's a whole lot of activity going on right now in the black community who aren't listening to what Jay-Z's words said to do. They're worried about what they think, who they think Jay-Z is talking about in these music videos and his music. I swear, it's like, people, get a life. Okay? Your life is not about criticizing, judging, and all this whatnot about these celebrities that could... You don't matter to them. Collectively, you matter. But individually, they don't know you. You will probably never meet them. You're not... What are you doing? Does this somehow make you feel closer to them and like you know them? You don't know them. You don't know Jay-Z. People did not know my father. And I can't tell you the number of people who would get up in my face when I was young and tell me they knew who my father was. They didn't know him. They wanted to know him. They wanted to rub elbows with somebody who was rich and famous. I didn't, because I was already in that world, and that shit don't rub off. Black skin don't rub off. Fame does not rub off. It doesn't. And I, when I was a software consultant, and I had a gig in St. Louis, okay? And I was sitting, I think I told this story on another video. Maybe I did. I was outside smoking, and I was out there with this white lady, and we was smoking, and we was talking about life, and she was talking about growing up and her parents, and I was talking about growing up and my parents, and somehow we ended up in a conversation about what our parents did for a living. When I told her who actually I told her what he did, and I didn't even connect that I'm in the city that he played in. But, so, she said, what? You are who? And I told her his name and that I was his offspring. This woman started crying. And I'm just standing there looking at her like, what the is going on here? She starts crying, and I'm observing, and I'm wondering, what is she crying about? And then she wanted to rub my arm. She wanted to rub my... And I said, why are you... Oh, no. And I jumped back. I said, why are you trying to touch me? Why are you touching... What? And she said, I want to... Maybe your fame will rub off on me, or maybe I will get a sense of who he is through you. And look, that kind of thing, although from the outside looking in was interesting and cool or whatever, on the inside looking out, I was disgusted. I was like, it ain't gonna rub off on you, sweetheart. I don't care how hard you rub or whatever. A sense of him is not going to rub off on you by touching me. Fans are crazy, okay? I've got more stories about that, which will be in my book. Just crazy things that fans do. And again, when I look at sports, I look at it from the aesthetic point of view. I don't care who wins or loses, and I don't have a favorite team. I wear a lot of NFL sweatshirts and t-shirts, and people are always asking me, oh, are you a fan of them? And I'm like, no. I pick them for the colors, which I do. I've got NFL sweatshirts and t-shirts from most of the teams in the country. But again, I don't. You'll very rarely catch me jumping up and down about who won or who lost. Last year I did because I can't stand the Patriots. I'm so sick of seeing them in the Super Bowl. Okay, so I was rooting for I was rooting for Atlanta because I'm tired of seeing them. I don't like I don't like Brady. I think he is. There's just something about his energy that rubs me the wrong way. But so last year was probably the first year that I could even recall that I got all upset and hyper and crazy and tense at Atlanta losing the Super Bowl. But normally I don't get like that about sports. I just watch them. I want to see who wins. I want to see how they play the game. Check that out. See, because the way that I am came from watching how my father played the game. I didn't watch the game. Does that make any sense? But the way he was about it did rub off on me and end up being part of the way I operated in the computer industry. I was dogged. I was determined to win. And I did. So, to Nevi, you know what? I love you, honey. I wish you truly understood my entire story and not just what you knew from my childhood. But yeah, I have some growing to do, and I have some fears to get over, and I have some pieces of my past that I need to forgive. But, understand that I'm not the same person you knew in childhood. That lots of things have happened between the time you saw me and then you saw me last year. 40-something years have passed, sweetheart. And I've had a lot of things happen in that period of time. So, so again, as you have me looking from the outside in with you, I want you to try to look from my side out. And then you'll have some understanding that I'm just like anybody else. I have fears. I have insecurities. I have things going on. But I'm a hard worker, and I'm going to work through them. I do what my therapist tells me to do each and every week. And I talk about this. I talk about my childhood with her. I talk about how it felt to be in that man's shadow. I talk about everything, including what I'm going to do and how I'm going to be about publishing this book. So I love you. I love you for shining a light in a place that was completely dark for me until last night. And the video is longer than I usually don't. I usually want them to be 30 minutes or less, but I just needed to get this stuff out of my system and to hopefully inspire young people that aren't middle-aged yet, and even people who are my age. Because it's never too late to start over. It's never too late. I started over in my 40s, my latter 40s. I had to start all over because I ended up homeless. And I ended up losing 9,500 pounds of my belongings up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I lost everything. I lost everything I'd worked my entire life to gain. I lost a whole bunch of nice furniture. I lost my motorcycle. I lost all of my family memorabilia. I lost all of my mother's china. I lost every freaking thing and had to start all over at middle age. And I'm sorry, if I can do that, however you are, however old you are, whatever circumstance you're in, if I can get out all that shit, it took me 14 years, but if I could get out of all that, so can you, wherever you are in life. Be you young, middle, or older. You can change anything you put your mind to changing. And I don't know, I picked that up somewhere along the way. And you know what? This is where I am now. And not because anybody did it for me. Nobody did it for me. Nobody in my life but me and God. Yes, God is my leader. God is the one that he shows me favor. And I'm a heck of a lot more grateful today that he does that than anything. Because I would not have survived everything that I've gone through without God carrying me through a time where I didn't want to be here anymore. And I kept holding on to just very few things that I had learned in my life until the miracle happened. And when it happened, oh boy, did it happen. But I believed someday something, either I was going to die or something was going to happen. Something was going to change. And I just held on long enough for it to happen. So with that, I'm going to bid you all a good morning, a great day, an awesome week, and a blessed life. Pollinator out.